here's a guy who really surprises a lot of people. Little guy, and you might think, little guy, doesn't have much to offer. I got to tell you something. His metaphor, I'm going to steal it from him for a moment here, is big doors swing on little hinges. So he's one of these guys that knows how to open up the big doors. He knows how to make millions, multiple millions for companies, for people, for individuals. He's a guy who's done it. He's a guy who's been there. He's had the huge bank accounts. He's had the Mercedes. He's had the women? No comment on the women. Okay. Well, without further ado, let's bring up my friend Mitch Axelrod. Mitch, come on up.
For the invite. Yay.
Good to see you.
Always good to be with you. Okay.
You take over.
So who am I talking to here? All you guys out there, welcome to the new game of building wealth. And the question of the day here is, are you a jockey or are you a horse? Now, I'm the guy who's a master of mixing metaphors. Thank you, Lisa. And so why not start with a mixed metaphor here? The new game of building wealth, and are you a jockey or a horse? So we're going to talk about wealth. That's the theme of this entire event here. But I'm going to talk about wealth from a whole different perspective. And so where do we start? Well, here's where we're going to start. 3 years ago, I wrote a book called The New Game of Selling. It became a #1 bestseller on Amazon, stayed there for 3 months. Now, you say, the new game of selling, what does that have to do with wealth? All right, well, my background is 37 years I've been working now self-employed. I've never had a job from the day I walked out of college. And when I started in business 37 years ago, I took all the sales training there was. And I didn't know how to sell. I was not natural at it. I came from a blue-collar family. My dad was a New York City cop. You can't get any more blue-collar than NYPD Blue. And so I really didn't know much about selling. I didn't know much about money. But here's what I did know. I looked around and I saw the people that were making the most money and were doing the best were selling something. So I bring this up very early in the conversation because if you're uncomfortable in any way with the concept of selling, the idea of selling, the process of selling, then you're in the right place. And that's why I wrote this book. 25 years ago, I started to actually implement a whole different way of selling in my company because I didn't like, it was one of the things that Lisa mentioned earlier, it was the oh dear. I hate the way I've been taught to sell. I really don't like it. I felt inauthentic, I felt contrived, I felt manipulative, and so that wasn't my style. So I said, I'm going to create a whole new game. And I did. So I wrote a training program and I started to use it in my company. Well, little by little, companies called me to train their people. And then little by little, I moved out of my original business, which was financial planning, and moved into the full-time training and consulting and speaking business. And what I realized is that people don't understand the value of selling as it relates to wealth. See, if you look around and see all the wealthy people in the world, you'll notice that the vast majority of them are either selling an idea, a vision, a mission, a purpose, a product, a service, an invention. So what I realized early in the game is if I could become really good at selling, then I could pretty much write my ticket. So I was never subjected to the market of products and services. If the manufacturers went out of business, I could still make a living. And so over the past 25 years now, I've had the great good fortune to train over 1 million people. And one of my friends who goes back many, many decades, I met him almost 30 years ago, Brian Tracy, you might have heard of him. Brian gave me one of the greatest compliments when he said that Mitch's process, his method, his technique, is responsible for putting more people into the top 10% than almost any other trainer alive today. And I took that as one of the greatest compliments because this is my life's work. My life's work is very simple. I play for the love of the game, and I play to make you a better player. See, if you really want to be wealthy, not just wealthy in money, but wealthy in the things that money can't buy, be the kind of person who makes everybody around you a better player. And that's what I dedicated my life to. So over the past 25 years now, I've had the great good fortune to train 1 million people, work with some of the biggest companies in the world, and in the process create $3 billion of new wealth for literally over 1 million people from 35 countries. Now you say, well, how does selling connect to wealth? Well, the two are really interconnected in a very big way. And so today, what we're going to do is we're going to explore the connection between selling and wealth, but more importantly is, how do you develop a wealth mindset a wealth motivation and a wealth methodology that will bring you the kind of wealth that you know you deserve. So where do we start? Let's start with a definition of what is wealth. So what does wealth really mean to you? Everybody has a different definition of wealth. If you asked 100 people what is wealth, you probably get 100 different definitions. But one definition would probably be consistent among most of the people that you're talking to. And here's the definition: financial independence. So when I started in business in 1978, I was in the financial planning game. And the reason I got into that business was because at the time, only 5% of all Americans were financially independent. And I thought, in the wealthiest country in the world, only 5% of us ever get to that magical state of being called financial independence, where you could actually stop working and live at the same lifestyle that you had before you stopped working. And I thought, I want to be in the 5%. And I want to help as many people get into the 5% as possible. So I set out in the first 10 years of my business as a financial planner to help more people get into the top 5%. Well, that statistic today is 1%. Over the past 35 years, the chances of you being financially independent are now like a horse race. If you were to handicap this as a horse race, your odds are 99-1. Those are long odds against you ever becoming financially independent. And what is financial independence? Well, my definition is it's a statement of account. And it has to do with your income, and it has to do with your net worth. That's financial independence. For me, you have your own definition. Well, that's very different than financial freedom. Let me make this very important distinction that I learned a long time ago. Financial freedom is a state of being. It's a frame of mind. And that has to do with your self-worth. When you really think about the distinction of financial independence versus freedom, you make a distinction between the numbers, the money, the accounts, the net worth, the balances, and your peace of mind, your frame of reference. How satisfied are you? How happy are you? I know people who are mega multimillionaires who are as trapped by their money as homeless people on the street. In fact, they say there's a commonality between very rich people and very poor people, and that is they think about money all the time. They just think about it from a different perspective. The rich person thinks, how do I keep it? How do I grow it? The poor person thinks, how do I actually get it? So what I learned early on in the game, especially 10 years as a financial planner, is that there's no amount of money, there's no goal big enough that can fill a hole in your soul. Get that? Because if you're chasing money at the expense of your soul, your well-being, your happiness, your satisfaction, it's really a fool's errand. And so the ideal for me was the combination of financial independence and financial freedom. Financial freedom being a state of mind, I could be free of money or the money worries no matter what my economic condition is. And if you can get to that place where you're free, where your mind is free, where your heart is free, then you're not trapped by your money no matter how much money you have. So my point of this is that your net worth is not your self-worth. And I've met way too many people in my lifetime who have those two so closely intertwined that their self-worth is dependent upon their net worth. So we're going to change that game, all right? We're going to work on how do you build the financial independence, the net worth, but also how do you improve the quality of your life in terms of your self-worth. So let's define financial independence, all right? Let's look at that concept of financial independence. It really starts with the idea that you're looking at money, numbers, accounts. So this is all about income. It's all about net worth. And there are three kinds of income that you can generate, depending upon how you work, what you do. The first is called active income. Active income means you make money. You work for money. Now, there's been a meme going around that this is one of my pet peeves, and I've got a lot of them. You'll probably hear quite a few of them come up over the next half hour or so. One of my pet peeves is when people say, you don't want to trade time for money. You don't want to trade hours for dollars. All right, well, really? You think about it. Who doesn't trade time for money? Everybody trades time for money. I think the meme ought to be trade time for maximum money now. That should be the meme. Because the idea that you're trading time for future money that may eventually one day possibly pay off is you're trading the current value of your time and the value you bring for future payoff. And I see so many people, especially in the information products business, trading off thinking that if all I do is create an information product, I can sit back and collect the money and the paychecks will come in. All right, not quite that easy. If it were that easy, everybody'd be doing it and everybody'd be sitting in the island of Bimini sipping pina coladas. It isn't the way it is, right? So you are going to work for money. You are going to trade time for money no matter how you look at it. My advice is trade time for maximum money now. That's a nugget of wisdom that I learned a long time ago, and I practice that every single day. Second kind of income is called passive income. This is where your assets work for you. Now, passive income typically comes from things like stocks, bonds, real estate, other tangible traditional investments, all right? But there's a whole lot more opportunity out there for passive income than you might think. And in a little bit, I'm going to show you how this distinction of jockey and horse actually can create additional passive income for you if you open your mind to it. So passive income is all about how do you get your assets to work for you so that they create income and revenue. The third type of income is recurring income or residual income. All right. Now, residual income is where you work once and you get paid over and over again, or other people pay you. All right. Others just essentially make you money. So J. Paul Getty once had a quote, great quote. He said, I would rather have 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own. That's the whole idea of leverage. So the most common way people create residual income in our culture, network marketing, multi-level marketing, direct sales, possibly licensing, where they license a product or a service and that pays over time, all right, or long-term contracts. That's what creates residual income. Now, you can create a product and get paid over and over again. The challenge is that usually that has a life cycle and a very steep life cycle. You create it, you make money, and then boom, it disappears. You have to create. It's a never-ending cycle. So the objective of financial independence is to create an active, passive, and residual income stream that essentially covers your income or covers your needs. And usually the number is about 70%. 1% of Americans today could actually stop working tomorrow and still maintain at least 70% of their income. Are you in that 1%? If you want to be in that 1%, then the game for you is money mastery. You want to master your money. That's the first part of this game, financial independence. The second part of this game, which for me is much more valuable, is financial freedom. And whether you have a lot of money or you have a little money, you can still be financially free because financial freedom is a state of being. It's a state of being that says, well, you know, I'm happy, I'm fulfilled, I'm actually grateful for what I have. I'm free. And here's the thing, if you're thinking about money 24/7, if money's weighing on you all the time, no matter how much you have of it, you're not free of it. It owns you, you don't own it. So for me, financial freedom is actually a higher state of being than financial independence. And money comes and money goes. You can lose all your money. I was bankrupt in 1990. I lost $3.4 million in a period of 24 months. Not only did I lose my money, I lost my self-esteem, I lost my self-confidence, I lost my relationships in many ways. All right? Money is so tightly tied to our state of being. And so part of this is to help you liberate yourself and detach yourself from the economics of financial independence, from the non-economics of financial freedom. It's also a frame of reference, a frame of mind. So I have friends who have never earned $60,000 a year in their entire lives, and they're in their 60s. They are two of the most financially free people I have ever known. They enjoy their money, they spend their money, they have fun, they don't worry about retirement, they're not thinking about what's going to happen in 20 or 30 years. They are financially free, whether or not they're financially independent, because their frame of mind is they are satisfied and content. Now, I know all the high achiever goal setters are going to throw tomatoes at me about this whole idea of being satisfied, because goal setters are never satisfied. All right? It's always more and more. I want to be satisfied. It's funny. We spend our lives chasing money, and then we get the money. What do? We try to find satisfaction. I think we have it backwards. right? Contentment. You don't want to ever be content or satisfied. Actually, I want to be very content. I want to be satisfied. That's a frame of mind that leads to financial freedom. There's a third piece to this, and that is your non-cash assets. So, when I negotiate deals with companies or individuals, you always go for the cash first because cash is king. However, have you ever gotten into a situation where somebody actually cannot afford to pay you? Well, what do? Do you discount your services? That's what a lot of people do. They'll discount their services to meet the needs of a client. I say don't discount your services. Make up the difference between what they can pay in cash with non-cash assets. Some of your most valuable assets are in non-cash. Think about this. Think about the value of your relationship capital. What is your relationship capital worth? I could tell you when I moved to San Diego 5 years ago, I was supposed to live on a yacht. The yacht got sold 3 days before I moved out here, and they never told me. I came out here in 24 hours. I was homeless, carless, and boatless. Fortunately, I had a great friend who took me in for 9 months. Relationship capital. You know, Harvey Mackay once said, it's too late to make a friend when you need a friend. So what is your relationship capital worth? I bet you haven't a clue what you have in your network in what I like to call the Rolodex. I still like Rolodex. I like the feel of it. I like the name of it. And it's mine, you know, that little thing that used to turn around, that Rolodex, it's all mine. Nobody has a Rolodex like me. Nobody has a Rolodex like you. Don't undervalue the intellectual value, the non-cash value of your relationship capital. How about your social capital? What's your social capital worth? We're tweeting, we're Facebooking here as we're going. People all over the world are finding out about this. Are you capitalizing on your social capital in the way that it's possible? Chances are good you've got so much more social capital that you're not taking advantage of. And then the last non-cash asset I want to talk about is spiritual capital. Really, when you think about it, whatever game you're playing, it's a spiritual game. You're playing it at a human level, but you're having this spiritual game that you're playing. And why 68%, Gallup just came out with a number, 68% of all Americans are disengaged from their work. They're not engaged in their work. Imagine 2/3 of the people you go to buy from couldn't care less about you. And you know that because you walk into a store, you walk into a restaurant, you walk into a supermarket, and the people are on their Facebook, and it's like, oh, a customer, geez, you're interrupting me. I'm in the middle of a text, right? It's like we've lost our sense of compassion and spirituality and bringing our spirit to our work, playing for the love of the game. So financial freedom is all about self-mastery, as compared to financial independence, which is all about money mastery. So I share this with you to give you a very important distinction. As you're seeking financial independence and more wealth economically, just make sure that you don't give up the things that money can't buy. All right? So, what do we talk about next? Most valuable resource you have of all, next to your health, is your time. Your time is your most valuable resource. Here's why. It's scarce. It's precious. It's inelastic, and it's irreplaceable. Think about it. Every moment of your life, there's all kinds, you can make more money, you can get wealthy again, you can lose everything like I did and get back in the game. But there's no amount of money that can buy you more time. So the question I'm going to ask you is, how are you utilizing your 2,000 hours every year that you work? And let me make an important distinction here. I bet you think of the 2,000 hours that you spend working as a job or a career or a business, right? That could be. I suggest you start thinking about it as 2,000 hours of wealth building opportunity. And when you start to think of your 2,000 hours as wealth building opportunity, the context shift of thinking about it as a wealth building opportunity, every minute you work is another opportunity for you to build more wealth for yourself and for others. And just a shift in that context will actually shift the way that you come to your game and play your game. So for me, how do I want to spend my 2,000 hours? I constantly am asking myself, how can I improve the quality of my time so that I'm using it for things that bring me joy, satisfaction, fulfillment, personal payoff, and also make me money. Because let me tell you this, and you know this to be true. You can't take your money with you, and you can't take your goals with you. But you're going to leave a piece of your soul with every single person you meet on this journey. And so even if you have no money, that doesn't mean you can't give value and bring value to people. So how do you want to use your 2,000 hours in the time that you spend working? All right? Very important thing. Now we're going to ask a question that relates to how you spend that 2,000 hours. And this is my shout out to Lisa Rothstein, who I was sitting in this very studio, and we were having this little mastermind. And I'm talking about this concept of jockey and horse. Well, little do I know that Lisa is behind me on the flip chart doing her magic, and she is so brilliant and talented and genius. And 5 minutes later, she taps me on the shoulder, turns around, and here it is, the jockey and the horse, the picture. So, Lisa, thank you. I love it. Yes. So the question I'm asking you now, which is a profound question, and it's a question of the day, by mixing the metaphors, is, are you a jockey or are you a horse? All right? Very important question to ask yourself, because depending upon the answer to this question will probably parallel very closely how you build your wealth. All right? So let's look at the jockey. Are you a jockey? If you're a jockey, these would be the words that probably describe you. Employee, first of all. All right? Now, let me make some distinctions here about this. I'm not a person who believes that just because you work for somebody else, you have a job, J over B, which equals just over broke. I actually believe that's one of the most insulting phrases I've ever heard. Because there are plenty of people who are really better suited to be jockeys. They're better suited to actually ride somebody else's horse into the money. Get that? The jockey is the person who rides other people's horses into the money. So you could be an agent, you could be a distributor, you could be a seller, you could be a marketer. Maybe you're a licensee. For example, we have an assessment tool that we don't own. We license it from a company and then we resell it. We're a licensee of that particular assessment. We're a jockey to that company's horse. Okay? Got that? So if you're a jockey, you are what's known as the rider. Now, I remember hearing an interview with one of the greatest jockeys in the history of horse racing, and they asked him, what is it that makes you so successful? Why are you such a great jockey? And I loved his answer. It was very humble. He said, yeah, I'm a pretty good jockey. He says, but let me tell you a secret. Psst. The best jockeys aren't always the best jockeys. The best jockeys ride the best horses. Wow. When I heard that, it totally spun my head. In fact, it was the genesis of this distinction of jockey and horse, because I first heard, for the first time, I actually heard a jockey humble enough to say, I'm part of it, but it's really about the horses I'm riding. So if you're a jockey, your objective is to find horses to ride that will take you into the money, all right? So identify, are you a jockey? And if you are, it's okay, because you can build amazing wealth. I know so many people who have been employed their entire lives doing work they love with a company they love and have amassed a great fortune working for somebody else. So I would never tell you that you have to be self-employed, because you may not be suitable for it. But if you are, let's talk about what it looks like to be a horse. And I'm going to use an old distinction. You've heard of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, all right? Well, we're going to change this from the apocalypse to the 4 horsemen of self-employment. And so I'm going to make some distinctions here, and I promise you that when you see these distinctions, the light bulb is going to go off for you, because you're going to see yourself in one of these 4 people, and that's probably the place you want to be playing. So let's talk about the first horseman, the entrepreneur. It was Robert, actually, who gave me a working definition of entrepreneur from the French. And if he were here, I'd have him shout it out. But essentially, what I said one day, he said to me, Mitch, did you ever hear the definition of the word entrepreneur? It comes from the French. I said, what is it? He says, undertaker. Undertaker? Really? Yeah, undertaker. Someone who undertakes a venture. Oh, wow, great. So here's my distinction about entrepreneur. Everybody's telling you you want to be an entrepreneur. I'm probably the only guy on the planet who's going to say to you, think twice about being an entrepreneur. And here's why. Purely entrepreneurs start businesses. They start businesses. They run them for 2 or 3 years and then they flip them or they move on. If you're an entrepreneur, you like the art of the start. That's where you get your psychic payoff. The problem is only 1% of the people who are, quote, entrepreneurs actually succeed as entrepreneurs. All right? So think twice before you start claiming you want to be an entrepreneur, or listen to somebody else who says you should be an entrepreneur, because you might actually be the second kind of horseman, and women included. And the second horseman is a business owner. Now, when I got into business 37 years ago, there was a term called sunken cost. It's still around, but you hardly ever hear it anymore. And the reason is because when you got into business 35 years ago, you had to sink money into a physical spot, a business, a location, an office, a warehouse. You had furniture, you had all kinds of expenses just to open up the doors. Today, you could start a business with zero. You don't have to have any sunken cost. Business owners typically run one business all the way through, narrow and deep. Entrepreneurs start and flip, move on to the next one. How many entrepreneurs would be successful if they didn't have a business owner running the company? Think about it. No matter how good you may be as an entrepreneur, you need a business owner to come in and manage the day-to-day operations of a business. So the business owner builds the business, whereas the entrepreneur starts the business. But you may be a third type of horseman. And the third type of horseman is the practitioner. The practitioner is the accountant, the attorney, the physical therapist, maybe the holistic healer, maybe the yoga instructor. The practitioner does the work. The practitioner loves the work. I am, in my heart, a practitioner. I love what I do. I love training. I love coaching. It gives me amazing intrinsic value to see the light go off in somebody's eyes when they finally have a breakthrough. They finally realize something that they didn't even realize before. And for me, practice is the art of the game. I love the game. Now, I've been an entrepreneur. I am a business owner, but quite frankly, I have a business partner. She handles a lot of the business operations. That frees me up to be the practitioner that I love to be. And by the way, you can be very successful and become very wealthy as a practitioner doing what you love, doing the work itself. Then there's the fourth kind of horseman. And the fourth horseman is the free agent. And the free agent basically is a freelancer who, here's the philosophy of the free agent. I will do any kind of work or job as long as I don't have to work for the man. That's the free agent. Some of you may relate to that, all right? I was always a free agent, but I didn't want to be a free agent going from job to job, so I was more of an entrepreneur, business owner, practitioner. Now, most of us are not one of these only, yet I would bet that you resonate more with one of these than the others. So which one of these, if you're a horseman, which one is, reflects you? Are you more the entrepreneur? Then you better surround yourself with a business owner and make sure you have practitioners who can deliver the product or service. If you're a business owner and you start a business and you go deep, you definitely want to have practitioners around you because those are the people who are going to get the work done. If you're a practitioner, you must resist all temptation that other people are saying, wait a second, it's not enough to have one yoga studio. You've got to have a whole franchise. But I just want to teach yoga. No, that's not good enough. You got to have a whole franchise. I meet so many people who are frustrated because they're trying to be somebody that somebody else tells them they should be, instead of being true to themselves. So, which of these horsemen are you? Or maybe you're a jockey. This is the question of the day. Are you a jockey or are you a horse? Now, you could be both. You could be a hybrid, as I am. I'm a jockey of someone else's product, but I'm a horse for the most part. We are a horse. Our company is a horse. We provide horses that other people can ride into the money. This one distinction right here can save you so much stress and anxiety. I've met people who, once they understood where they fit on this continuum, now they start to surround themselves with the people who could make them better. And in the new game, your team may be as important as your talent, because your talent can only take you so far. In the old game, we went as far as our talent could take us. That was the whole old game. Move ahead in the company, move ahead in your career, based on your own individual talent. But today, you surround yourself with other people who can make you a better player. If you're a practitioner, find yourself a business owner that you can collaborate with. If you're a business owner, maybe you find practitioners. If you're an entrepreneur type who likes to start businesses, then surround yourself with people who could make sure that when you start a business, the business sustains itself. This is a huge breakthrough. It was for me when I discovered it, and I'm sure it will be for you. So here's the question that you want to be asking. If you're a jockey, you're going to be asking the question of who and what can I ride into the money? Who and what can I ride into the money? You're not restricted today by your job. You may be a 9-to-5er, but you've got hours before, hours after, weekend hours that you could build up a part-time business if you wanted to by finding somebody else's product that you could ride. So if you're a jockey, you're going to be asking the question, who and what can I ride into the money? If you're a horse, you're going to be asking the question, where do I find jockeys? How do I find jockeys? All right? We are a horse. We're looking for jockeys. We're looking for people who want to ride the horses that we have in our stable into the money. And so if you're a jockey and you're looking for a horse to ride, we may be a solution for you. If you're a horse and you're looking for jockeys, we may also be a solution for you because we've got lots and lots of people, jockeys looking for horses to ride. All right? Very important question. When you answer this question, it could absolutely change the way you go about everything that you do. All right? So, are you a jockey or are you a horse? Very critical distinction to make for today's session. So, let's talk about what it is, what skills are necessary for you to be successful in the wealth game, in the business game. In 1999, I was working on a project for the new millennium called Successibilities, 21 life skills for the 21st century. Never turned into a book, but it wound up being a video series, and I was approached by my local high school to come in and teach it to the high school students. So we took 7 of those Successibilities. We put a camera, they filmed me, and it went out all over the local cable. And little by little, I'm driving in town, and all of a sudden, people are beeping at me, rolling down their window. Hey, Mitch, who are you? I don't even know you. We saw you on TV. We saw you on cable. Little did I know that ran the entire summer in New Jersey. 250,000 people saw that show. And it was all about how do you master the life skills for business and the business skills for life. And so what I want to share with you is what we help you to master. Because if you really look at it, you want to master the skills of the game. One of our most successful players in the new game is a 71-year young guy named Steve Apostolides. Steve was a CEO of many companies, worked with Jack Welch for 40 years. And he retired, he got bored, he wanted to get back into business, so he started in the insurance business at 65 years old. 67, he was ready to walk out of the game. And that's when he started to implement the new game. And he said to me one day, he had a great analogy. He said, Mitch, I ask everybody, because he's a scratch golfer, he says, if you wanted to be a great golfer, would you rather have the skills of the #1 golfer in the world, or would you rather have the best set of golf clubs? Think about it. He said, every single person said to me, I want the skills of the #1 golfer. And he said, Mitch, that's what you teach. You, in the new game, you teach the skills to be the #1 golfer. Everybody else is selling golf clubs. And I said, Steve, I could come kiss you for that one. Okay? What a great distinction. Again, if you listen to your customers are going to tell you everything you need to know about what you do and who you are. So, what are some of the major successibilities that I believe you want to master so that you can master your wealth internally and master your wealth externally? The very first one is valuability. Valuability is to accept yourself. One of the biggest challenges I see in the people that I coach and work with is the lack of acceptance of who they are. They want to be somebody else. Unfortunately, you don't get to make that choice, right? You're stuck with yourself. So you might as well accept yourself for who you are and what you are. The second thing is capability. It's said that the greatest knowledge that we have is to know ourselves. So if you know yourself, you know what you're good at, you know what your limitations are, you know what you like, you know what you don't like, you know what you want, you know what you don't want. Capability, one of the most important success skills that you could develop, especially in the new game of business, in the new game of everything. The third one is coachability. One of our best coaching sessions, which I'm going to tell you about in a couple of minutes, I'm going to share with you some of our very best coaching sessions and give you an invitation to actually get access to all this pure gold, is coachability, mastering the art of learning from others. One of the most important skills I developed over time, because I was an athlete, I played semi-pro ball, and I actually had to try out with the St. Louis Cardinals once. I was told from an early age, Mitch, be coachable. There's no greater skill to peak performance than to be coachable. Everybody who's a peak performer has a coach. Some have multiple coaches. Tiger Woods had a swing coach, goodness sake. Tiger Woods had a swing coach. That should tell you everything you need to know about coachability. Next up is sales ability. We talked about the importance of selling. If you can't sell your idea, your vision, your mission, your products, your services, if you can't sell your own value in the marketplace, you'll never receive the kind of wealth that you deserve. So don't be afraid to sell. Selling is a very noble and valuable profession, especially the way we teach it in the new game of selling. Next up, after you get through selling ability, is service ability. Now, I know all of you watching love to serve other people. Here's the question. Are you serving yourself? Are you serving yourself? A good 3/4 of us, and we know this because we have an assessment that actually measures this, 3/4 of us are more compassionate, patient, and serviceable to others than we are to ourselves. It's okay to serve yourself. Doesn't mean you're selfish, but if you don't serve yourself, then who will? So one of the most valuable success abilities is service ability, the ability to serve yourself. Next up is employability. Employability is to price yourself. How do you price yourself? I'm going to share with you in a minute one of our coaching sessions called the Money Talk. In the Money Talk, we show you 5 different levels of pricing. There's cost, there's time, there's project, there's value, there's experience. I guarantee you that you are not getting paid anywhere near what you're capable of simply because of your pricing structure. That when we sit down with companies and individuals and we say, how are you pricing yourself? Could you move up a level? Could you expand? Could you bundle 2 levels together? The light bulb goes off and all of a sudden we create wealth literally out of thin air. Just by understanding how to price yourself. Ask you a very simple question. Do you overprice yourself more or underprice yourself more? Or get a fair price? Vast majority of people I've met in my lifetime, and I've been guilty of it too, they underprice, they undervalue themselves. Just by giving yourself a raise could be worth 100 times the time that you spend in this conference. Next up is profitability. Pay yourself. See, top line revenue, what you bring in, that's only half the story. The real story is how much you keep, not how much you make. And depending upon how well you manage your middle line expenses in your business or your budget at home will depend upon how much you actually pay yourself. Do you find that you're working 90% for other people and other things and you take a mere meager portion? So profitability is a very important thing for you personally in your own budget as well as your company. We work with companies to show them how to leverage their profitability so you can pay yourself more for the time and energy that you put in to run your business. And then there's leverageability. How do you multiply yourself? You can only be in one place at one time. How do you multiply yourself is through other people's assets, other people's programs, other people's horses, if you will. And then the last one, which may be the most important one of all, is what I call lovability. Lovability is to be yourself, and to be yourself and to feel really good about who you are, to actually love yourself in a way that you treat yourself with the same reverence that you treat others. I like to look at self-esteem as empathy turned inward. Think about that. We've got all these definitions of self-esteem. The one I like best, the one I feel most comfortable with is empathy turned inward. If you can turn the empathy that you give to others and the compassion you give to others and turn that inward, that will build your self-esteem faster than any seminar or training or therapy, in my estimation. So these are the success abilities that we teach people. And as you develop and master each of these individually and collectively, the effect is cumulative. it affects not just your financial independence, it affects your financial freedom as well. Okay? So these are the skills that we want to help you build in a way that you can now take these skills, bring them to your everyday activities, and find that you can create amazing results in a very short amount of time. In addition to big doors swinging on little hinges, I like to say that big possibilities come from small distinctions. And what I've done here is I've shared some small distinctions, but they can create big possibilities for you. So, where do we go from here? The question is, are you ready to play a new game? Robert sent out a great email, and I love the quote from Einstein. The quote is the definition of insanity, and we all know it. We all know the definition of insanity, but it's like anything else. We all know how to lose weight. We all know how to stop drinking. We all know how to take care of those habits that are in our way. But knowing and doing, two completely different things. So if you're ready to play a new game, if you feel like you're ready to break through, break out, all right, and break open to the possibilities that exist for you, I want to invite you into the game that we play. The game that we play has created, as I mentioned, $3 billion of revenue for our clients. I've trained so many people, top performing people from almost every company you can imagine. And so what I want to do is I want to invite you to consider playing a new game. And here's how you get in the game. We set up a game where you can start fast, all right, because we're going to give you the game plan, the playbook, and the plays, all right? So you start fast. And I like to say it's much easier to take somebody from go to go faster than it is to take them from stop to go, all right? But if you're at stop right now, if you're first starting into this business or a venture, then what we're about to share with you could literally take you off in a whole different direction and get you off to a fast start. The second part of this is to go faster. Going faster requires you to have a coach. No matter how good you are individually, no matter how smart you are, no matter how talented you are, you can't see yourself for who you are. You can't see your limitations as well as somebody else, and you can't see your strengths in many cases. Most of the time when I coach people, I coach them to tap into their strengths, not to overcome their weaknesses. If you spend your time strengthening your weaknesses, you will weaken your strengths, guaranteed, without a question of a doubt. So by going faster, you can accelerate your pace and you can get to where you want to go much quicker. Our game is not information. Our game is nuggets of wisdom. One nugget of wisdom could be worth 10 pounds of information. We're not going to dump all kinds of content on you to justify a price. To me, one nugget of wisdom is all I need to change my game. And that's our game. Our game is all about nuggets of wisdom that can help you grow and build and leverage yourself geometrically, not arithmetically. Next up is low downside risk. When I was a financial planner, a question came up all the time. What's the risk of this? How much can I lose? All right. Well, if you look at the money you've already invested in growing your business, or maybe expanding your business, or maybe getting into business, how much risk have you taken? Well, in business, you want to take risk, but you want to manage the risk. And the best equation is low downside risk and high upside reward. And that's the game that we've created. We've created a game that has very low downside risk, very high upside reward. And that leads me to another thing. No debt. I have no debt. I'm a big believer in no debt. All right. I don't like to cost people $2,000, $5,000 to go into a coaching program, put it on their credit card, put it on their overdraft or whatever, and then they get no return. So our game is no debt. Our game is you pay as you go and you pay out of profits. So let me ask you this. If you could get into a game with no debt and pay out of profits, what's your chance of return on investment? About 30 years ago, when I was sitting with a client in financial planning, and over the years, I kept getting a question that kept coming up over and over and over again. The question was, Mitch, when am I going to get my money back, my investment back? And I realized that there's two ROIs. ROI 1 is return of investment. How fast do you get your customers back return of investment? See, if you can get fast return of investment, like you're in a casino, you're playing cards, you put your chips in, you win the hand. What do? You pull back your chips and you play with house money. If you can play with house money, the faster you can get ROI 1, return of investment, the longer you're going to get ROI 2, return on investment. Our game is fast ROI 1, fast return of investment, and forever return on investment. What does that do for you? What does it do for us? It enables you to stay in the game forever and play as long as the game pays you. And if you're paying out of profits, then why would you ever want to leave a game like that? That game pays you forever. Maximum leverage is if you can pay as you go and pay out of profits. So we also set it up so that you can, basically the game will pay you to play. So if you actually bring and invite 3 people into the game, you play for free, right? We've set this game up for everybody to win. So there's another dimension to this that I want to share. And we talk about big ticket items, all right? Riding into the money. Well, we have some big ticket horses that you could ride into the money. And I'll just make a couple of distinctions here. The first one is how you can actually take our content, our intellectual property, our programs, and sell them for 4 figures a month, all right? That's one of the bigger ticket items that we have available to you. But you might be interested in making 5 figures. Well, have you ever considered renting your content? Think about this. Car industry about 35 years ago was really on its heels. And all of a sudden, something called leasing came around. And we take it for granted today because most of us grew up with leasing. But those of us with a little bit of gray hair, we remember the days when you had to buy a car. You couldn't lease a car. Completely transformed the car industry. And their business is not selling cars. That's their product. Their business is money. They make more money on the money than they do on the cars. Right? You could rent your content. You could rent our content for 5 figures. Or maybe you could license it. I've done multiple deals with companies for 6 figures where they've taken my intellectual property and they pay me a licensing fee. I create it once and I sell it over and over. By the way, you can do all this too, as a jockey or a horse. If you want to do it as a jockey, you can ride us. If you want to do it yourself, well, then you can do it yourself. I encourage you. Or maybe some combinations of these where you can sell it, you can rent it, you can license it, and maybe actually create a 7-figure opportunity. And that's what we're looking for. If you feel like you have an opportunity or you know of a company that would like to be part of this, there's an email that you can send us. Just send us an email. Let us know that you're interested. Because we have consulting, we have training, we have coaching and speaking, plus certifications that we can license to companies, and you can get an ongoing passive or residual income, okay? So if you're interested in winning big, it's possible you could ride one of our horses or somebody else's horse. That's how you actually leverage yourself into big money. But here's what I want to invite you to step into, and that is what we call performance coaching. So every month I do coaching. We have a private club called the Players Club, and we've been doing this now for 4 years because people kept coming up to me and saying, Mitch, I'm not one of your corporate clients, and we don't have the money to get into one of your big programs, so how do we participate with you, get the same level of coaching, and not pay that exorbitant amount? So we started doing coaching on a monthly basis. We call it the Players Club. So it was a pretty pricey investment to get in, all right? And then about 3 months ago, people were coming up to me and saying, Mitch, is there a way that you could create this game with a lower barrier to entry, with a higher payoff for us, where we could pay out of profits, potentially? And I said, you know what? We can do that. So we went into our archives and we took our 14 best coaching sessions like how to overcome objections? No, how to get rid of objections. How would your business be different if you never got another objection for the rest of your business career? We can show you how to do that. How do you actually turn customers from rotten into ripe? All right, we have a 4-step formula for how do you reactivate customers and how do you turn customers from rotten into ripe. These are the outer game of wealth building strategies, but there's also the inner game. The inner game is the pyramid of performance. How do you get your head, your heart, and your hands aligned so that you're that high performance being, that you're performing at your best? If you have a lukewarm heart, no matter how good your methods are, you're never going to be as good as you could be. You're never going to perform as well as you could perform. And so we take you through, this one, the belief bubble. One of the greatest quotes I ever read. Belief is not merely an idea the mind possesses. Belief is an idea that possesses the mind. Let that one sink in. That's a game changer. What beliefs right now that possess you are keeping you stuck inside your belief bubble? We did an entire coaching session on how to break through your belief bubble to everything that's outside. There's 14 of these that are already in the stock. They're in the archives. And we're going to want you to get instant access to each and every one of these, because each and every one of these could be a potential $1 million payoff for you. But as Lisa said, all right, wait, there's more. All right, well, money is a big issue. That's the topic of our conversation here. And so we created a session called the Money Talk, how to ask for, how to accept, and how to receive money. And here's what we covered in this session. How do you eliminate all the apprehension you have about talking about money? How do you discover quickly if a person is suitable for you? How do you kindly disengage when somebody is not financeable? Let's face it, you could want to help everybody in the world, but if they can't really pay for your services, how long do you want to continue to work with them? Maybe you want to send them to somebody else who could serve them. What's more is, how do you show your solution as an investment of ROI times 2? All right, when you can begin to show your solution as an investment, fast return of investment, forever return on investment, now all of a sudden, also, how do you price yourself for value and experience? This right here, up-leveling your thinking from cost, time, or project to value and experience. I once had an experience where somebody brought up money in a conversation. We were corporate training, and he was saying to me, let's talk about money. And I was thinking the job was $25,000. And he said to me, Mitch, we have about $100,000 for this. We think about $70,000 would be good for you. And because I didn't price myself first, I let them tell me what the value was. They gave me $70,000 for that project that I would have asked $25,000 for. Are you sitting on a project right now that you've underpriced because you think it's worth something far less than the customer values it for? That's what happens when you start to move to value and experience pricing. So if you really want to ask for, accept, and receive more money with ease, without pressure, this session alone could be worth a fortune to you. And finally, I picked this one last coaching session because this one is one of my favorite. It's called Secrets to Hook the Big Fish. I've been in mostly the billion-dollar market. I've worked with big companies, but yet I've trained small business owners, hundreds of thousands of small business owners. I'm a small business owner. I love working with small business owners. However, I like to catch a big fish now and then. If you want to catch a big fish, if you want to land one of your million-dollar clients, whatever that looks like for you, in this session, I show you the 3 steps that will almost assure you. It may take 3 months or 6 months or 12 months, but if you're looking to catch a big fish, this will help you do it. Step 1, how do you prepare? I've caught big fish just because I've out-prepared my competition. All right? Preparation is so important when you're looking at working with a big client, even a small client. Second is, how do you position yourself? How do you position yourself as the expert, the trusted voice, the person who's going to be the collaborator and the champion for whoever it is that you're going to work with internally? And then lastly, how do you propose a deal? How do you make sure that when you price it, it's the right price? How do you go in and tap multiple budgets in different departments so that they can co-opt the project for you? Maybe they get 20% of the money here and 30% of the money here and 50% of the money here. How do you orchestrate all that? This one session right here, if you're interested at all or excited about getting into the big fish market, this one session right here will help you to break through the mental barriers, the physical barriers, and also the mindset barriers and get to that big fish that you want to land. So add up all those 14 coaching sessions, the money talk, the big fish. What do you think? What would you pay for this? What do you think it would be worth to you if you could delve right into those? Now think about it this way. I'm going to mix another metaphor. I've spent 37 years and 75,000 hours of my life creating and finding gold mines. Those gold mines are sitting ripe and ready for you to extract as much gold as you can handle. There's no limit. There's no bottom to how much gold is in this gold mine. It's only up to you. How many wheelbarrows full, all right? And all you have to do is buy the picks and the shovels. That's all. So how much would you pay for picks and shovels if you could dig into this gold mine and dig out as much gold as you possibly can? with no end in sight and no limit. What would you think that would be worth to you? Well, here's what we're going to charge you for it. We want you in the game because you can't win it if you're not in it. So how do you get into the game? How do you get into the game with a low barrier to entry, low risk, high reward? Well, we're going to give you monthly group coaching. You're going to get a chance to spend more time with me, a couple hours every month, where we take all your questions, we take any case studies, and we go until every question is answered. If you've gotten some value from this conversation, it's quite possible that you will get exponential value from monthly conversations, and that's where the transformation occurs. The second thing is we're going to give you access to all those archives, all those sessions I just mentioned, all 14 plus the 2 bonuses, all right? And here's what we're going to ask you to invest. $99. That's it, all right? And here's why. If you can't get a fast return of investment and a forever return on investment with everything that's in that immediate archives, then this is not a game for you. And you have very little risk to test it out. It's like you want to get on a horse, get on the horse, ride it around a little bit, test it out for 30 days. Actually, you get to keep everything for life. If you don't like it, you get off the horse, you say, I don't like this game. On the other hand, if you like the game, all right, and you get the money talk and you get the hook, the big fish, then you can stay with us forever. Because if you're paying out of profits and every month we're coaching you and adding to the archives, as long as we keep you in the game making money, why would you ever leave? So we're going to take the risk. Our risk is our performance. We have to perform every month. $99 to get in, you get immediate access. 30 days later, it's $99 a month to stay in. Stay in for a couple of months. If it works for you, you stay in forever. If it doesn't work for you, you control the game. You get out anytime you want. So here's the question. Here's only one decision, really. Is everything that we just shared with you worth a shot for $99? If it is, just click the link, go to ultimatewealth.com/Mitch, and you can get access literally right now. All right? And if this isn't for you, maybe you know somebody who would value this kind of opportunity. All right? And then here's the other thing. Once you get in, if you bring in 3 friends, you play free. So we've set it up for you to win, even on the back end. All right? So there's your choice. One simple choice, one decision. So let me conclude with this great quote that I love from Winston Churchill. He said, "We stumble over the truth from time to time, but most of us pick ourselves up and hurry off as if nothing ever happened." The greatest gift that you could give me for today is to take something that I've shared with you, use it, make money with it, send me a note and say, Mitch, thank you very much, because that's the kind of payoff that I seek. It's the kind of reward that money can't buy. So remember this, you're a player, you can change your game, and I look very much forward to being with you on the Players Club coaching field very soon again. Make your next year your best year, and God bless you. Thank you very much for joining us, and I'll see you again in 2016.